welcome. It's the November 30th, the Permanent Building Committee, School Building Committee meeting. Is there anyone who wishes to engage in public participation? Hearing and seeing none. The first item is there are a couple of bills that we need to review and pay for the public safety building that work was being done by the town, but it's coming out of the project budget. And we're just pulling those up now.
Yeah,
Can you see it?
I can. So I move, Mr. Chairman, that we approve invoice number 451208 for the sum of $30,993.14.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Tom. And Chip, just quickly, what was this for?
So this is when we had the leftover money, this is for all the controls work that was done on both the fire and police side. And then this, when we had the leftover money, was decided to be paid out of the project when we met with the town.
It was going to be a split of the town and project costs, and because
Right.
we have leftover money, the project can pay for all of it now.
All right, is there any questions or comments? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Okay. And there's one other, I understand, Chip?
Yeah, there's a total of 40,000-ish.
Okay,
So this is the second. I move that we approve invoice number 460102 for the sum of $10,331.04.
Second.
any questions or discussion? Chip,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Okay, that concludes the public safety. We'll have something in the future, but that's all for tonight. Lynn,
Thanks,
you want to
Lynn.
get to the high school?
Yes. Can you see the presentation?
Yep, I can.
Yep.
All right. So I'll kick this off. On the agenda tonight, we have approval of meeting minutes. We also, went forward. Also, we have a review of the early procurement package pre-GMP 1. Hopefully everyone got the updated package this afternoon. We met as a team today and we felt we were rushing the early equipment procurement package. So we have pulled that out and we're still really up against the gun on getting the culvert sections, precast sections procured. So we are asking for that approval tonight and we'll go through that. And we would be approving pre-GMP 1 through contract amendment number 4. Then we need to talk about the trade contractor pre-qualification process and assigning subcommittee members to that pre-qualification team. Typically, it is the working group members that do it, so we'll talk about that as we move along. Then we have the design update, which we're going to quickly go through the contents of the 60% CD submission to MSBA and ask for you to approve that submission to MSBA. We will be making that submission tomorrow if it is approved. Then we'll go through the pre-qualification schedule and upcoming meetings.
Lynn, do we have no bills to pay tonight in this?
Yeah, no bills.
No
Save them
bills,
all.
no
till the
bills in
6th.
this. Yeah, our next meeting is the 14th, and so we'll have all the
14th, excuse me, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
All right, so do I hear a motion to approve the November
I
16th?
move that we approve the minutes of November 16th as written.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Hearing none. Is there anybody objects to approval of November 16th, 2023 Penrose Building Committee School Building Committee meeting minutes? Hearing none, they're approved.
So we, as I said, we took out the electrical equipment procurement piece of pre-GMP 1. So it has reduced the value of that to 2,050,615. Is bond on? I don't know if they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave is on.
Lynn, before you go much further, we have some new members that don't even might know what a pre-GMP is. Can you just, on a 1,000-foot level, just give people and a refresher for those that haven't gone through the Galvin all that recently either, what the GMP is, how we get to it, what does a pre-GMP mean, and where does it fit into all the budgets that we've already talked about? And then I think the rest of the conversation is a lot easier. Maybe.
Okay, so a GMP is a guaranteed maximum price. And in the CM at risk process, we develop that ultimate price with the CM, the owner, and the design team. And we use a control budget. The control budget that we are using for this earlier pre-GMP package is based on bonds estimate at 60%. However, our ultimate control budget is the budget that we presented to MSBA and that is carried in our total project budget. So a pre-GMP is an interim GMP, and basically a GMP could be made up of a number of different interim GMPs, and they build upon each other and they're collective until you get to a set GMP budget. So in this particular one, this is an early GMP or an interim GMP, and it is just for the early procurement of long lead items. So because we took out the electrical out of this one, we will be coming back to you on the 14th with a pre-GMP 2 to include the early electrical equipment procurement. Is that?
All right, thank you, Lynn.
Okay.
So with
Dave,
this
go-
procurement, what purchases are being made?
I'm going to let Dave go
Hard
through
to
it.
read
We
it, but
have-
I was looking at it.
Sure. I'll try to make this fairly simple. And just to add on to what Lynn was saying, what these early GMPs do is allow us to write subcontracts and material procurement vendor awards so that we can start the process. So in this case, this is the culvert material only. The install is going to be on our future GMP amendments for when we have the site subcontractor on board. This is just so we can get this material into fabrication. And included with this, as we get down the line, we know that, for instance, the package that we'll eventually ask for site, civil, and structure will be too close to the mobilization date. So we've also got 2 months, the first 2 months of mobilization and general conditions within this, so that we don't have to get stuck. I have to, for instance, sign up the site fence and barriers vendor. And if we wait, we won't be able to do that in a timely fashion before we need to mobilize. So we're capturing enough early and mobilization money within here to be able to write those subcontracts and vendor contracts prior to mobilization. So that's what these are for, just to allow us to start that award process with some of these early subs.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions or comments?
Just a quick one, maybe a minor point. On the agenda tonight, review and approval of November 15th meeting minutes.
Right,
Does that need to be corrected?
we already did it.
The agenda says the 15th.
Oh. Well,
The,
Rather
meeting
than the
was the
16th. No, the minutes are for the 16th. I think
The
the
minutes
agenda
are
was
for
just
the
wrong.
I understand that, but the agenda's incorrect. Does it have to be?
doesn't
correct?
matter, Wayne, what the agenda says.
we'll fix it.
Yeah, just why is the electrical pulled out?
We pulled it
Because
out.
we needed to do a little more vetting of the numbers that we received. We weren't quite in a position to be as accurate as we want to be for tonight. So we decided as a team, it was best to do a little more vetting with the low vendor to make sure that his number is correct.
There was a wide spread between the bidders, and because of that, we started to feel nervous about going with just the low number. We felt there needed to be more vetting of all three bids to make sure that we have captured all the costs needed.
Okay,
Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion?
Wait,
No, not quite yet, right? Glenn?
right, right.
Oh, we gotta do the amendment, I'm sorry.
So, in order to amend the CM contract, we need to approve contract amendment number 4, which is for the value that we just went through for pre-GMP 1, and adding that value to the existing CM contract. We are currently at $2,490,131 for the total CM contract. But contract amendment number 4 is for $2,050,615.
All right, now can I have an emotion?
Yes, I move that we approve CM contract amendment number 4, pre-GMP number 1 for early procurement, for culvert material, general contract, GCSs, GRs, and early site mobilization in the amount of $2,050,615.
Second.
There any other discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Wayne,
yes,
it's unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And the other topic I was talking about was the pre-qualification subcommittee members. And typically in the past, we've used the working group members. And these are the working group members listed: Joe, Chip, and Tom. The law also requires a representative from the OPM, the architect, and the CM be part of the pre-qualification process. Craig, do you want to give just a little bit of background of what we're getting ready to do? We put together a request for qualifications for the trade contractors and just talk about that for a few minutes and explain it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lynn. So Massachusetts requires that we pre-qualify subcontractors or trade contractors. So what that process looks like is we put out a solicitation, a public invitation for DCAM certified contractors to give us their qualifications in what's called an SOQ, statement of qualifications. We collect those all up, and this subcommittee will review each one of them and assign point values to various categories, such as experience and years in business and amount of work that they're currently doing. And that's all prescribed in what's called the request for proposal. So, sorry, getting ahead of myself. So first, we just get their qualifications and we say, okay, these trade contractors, we would be happy with any of them essentially, or they're all qualified to bid on this project. The next step is we put out a request for proposal, RFP, and that's when we'll have their proposals with numbers. But the first step is just to get a list of qualified trade contractors. And that's what this subcommittee will be doing.
Anybody have any questions or comments or discussion?
Yeah, quick question. Can you define DCAM?
Yes, Department of, it's a
Vision
state
of
department,
capital
Department of,
asset
yep, capital asset maintenance and
Management.
management.
and
So that's
maintenance.
a state entity. And they have a program where any contractor doing work in the state can submit their information and experience, and then they get certified by DCAM to do that. So an electrician or an electrical company will be certified by DCAM to do electrical work on municipally
Public
funded
projects.
projects. Yeah, publicly funded projects.
All right.
Any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
I move that we vote to approve the appointment of the trade contractors pre-qualified subcommittee members as presented.
second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Yes.
Tom,
yes,
Aaron,
Yes.
Mark,
yes,
John,
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous.
Okay, I'll turn this over to Helen, I suppose, to just kind of give a brief overview of the content of the construction document submission.
We're not gonna read each page.
No,
Well, I know some of you do dig into detail, and we appreciate that. So, in fact, Joe had cited some discrepancies with how the attachments were attached, and he was correct. So, if you happen to open the folder sent, today or even yesterday, things are continuing to shift and be corrected. This will go into the MSBA tomorrow, but similar to our earlier submissions, this is again another milestone in the MSBA process. So at this 60% construction documents milestone, there's still a lot of focus on narratives of systems, but also really a big focus on the drawings and specs, and those get short shrift in the table of contents, but they certainly make up a large portion of the submittal. Fortunately, they're not asking for copies, hard copies anymore. It's all electronically submitted, but you'll see that the OPM and CM certainly have a role in this in terms of certifying the budgets, basically confirming that we comply with all the requirements of the MSBA with respect to how we've cost estimated their schedules from every entity, the OPM, CM, and designer. And then we get into the designer deliverables, which again are narratives, a lot of calculations associated with sustainability, the structural calcs, safety and security narratives, etc. We do also have to, again, confirm that we're meeting the program, which is set out in the thing called the space summary, which we've been tracking all along, and the MSBA does a good job of reviewing. And then last but not least is certainly the drawings and specifications. There's also a whole section on quality management, which we need to respond to. So in the appendix, also, if there are any new reports that have been issued by our consultants, we include those. Those are getting fewer and further between at this moment in time. But as noted, it is another sizable package. It is representative of a 60% construction documents submission, and we will be putting the final touches on it tomorrow morning, sending it to Lynn for submission if you do so choose to approve its submission. Any
Just for
questions?
For clarification, Helen, what now this the MSBA, what do they do with it?
So they do what they've been doing all along. They actually do review the drawings, the narratives, everything. They do a pretty complete review. If they find any discrepancies, they note it. they call you out and say, did you ask about this? Did you check this? So again, within, I believe they have 15 working days to get us comments. We have 10 days to respond. But of course, we will proceed on towards the 90% submittal, which is the next milestone, very similar to this one.
Thank you, Alan. Any
Mhm.
questions or discussion? Hearing none at 60%. So, okay, I have request a motion.
Oh, wait a
Joe.
minute, we're not there yet.
Oh,
Joe,
all right,
Joe,
I
it's Phil. Sorry, stupid thing wasn't working. I got a quick question. So after 60%, if we see things on drawings and have questions about design or site things, like what's the best way? Do we email that to you, Joe, to send to the design team? Is that, how do we send questions and comments
it-
back without flooding everyone?
I'd send it to Lynn.
Okay,
Wouldn't- Is that right, Lynn?
Yes,
Okay,
I'd also suggest that we send a deadline, not a hard deadline, but if people want to ask questions or make comments, it shouldn't just be this kind of free flowing. It should be in the next couple weeks so that, they're not looking at things at 90% the day before they're trying to draw, so they can respond. So I would suggest we set some sort of guidelines on that. I don't know
Yeah, I
how
guess-
others feel about that.
yeah,
I think-
that's like, when's the next baseline is due at certain dates. So obviously, right, any questions would be well before that, just so they could be at least read, I guess, so.
I think that's a really good point that Chip is making. And I will say, I think we as a team did not give ourselves enough time for the comments that we received from, should be also noted, the commissioning agent who is contracted via the MSBA, looking over systems and envelope. They send us comments. Bond has sent us comments, as well as Left Field does their own independent review. And I have to say, we were playing a bit of catch up with the deadline that we had set for getting those comments. So once we set that deadline for the 90%, we're going to give ourselves more time. And I think we can share that deadline with this group so that you all have a sense of where we're tracking, to make sure that we do respond in timely fashion. 90% is actually a big one, because it's also the same. When we issue 90% to the cost estimators, we're issuing bid package 2 for bid. So December and January are going to be very, very busy for us. And I know that Chip has also asked for a page turn, sometime in January. And I think those are some dates that we're going to want to get on calendars very soon.
when is it for information purposes for everybody? When is 90% due to the MSBA?
90% to the MSBA, I believe, is the end of March, right? March 29th?
yeah, I think it's beginning.
April?
So
April?
Helen, can you think about what you want that date to be for kind of the last day to ask questions or bring up
Yes.
comments or whatever?
Yes.
And can we publicly know that by the 14th meeting?
Yes. It's a good plan.
Yeah, we should have that.
Would the page turn be open to the whole PBC, or just more
Yes.
of the design team page turn?
No, the whole PVC. We'll do it at the public safety building.
I mean, I've got the 60% drawings, guys, and I don't know how many people actually want to do the turn page. I'm a quarter of the way through it, and I've been working on it for the last 3 weeks. It's huge. So I'm happy, and I haven't found much, or question much, so I'm happy to share my actual draft, my 60% draft with anybody, but just think about how we want to do that.
Right, we're gonna be doing that, right?
What?
In January, correct?
Yeah, I think we want to do that before we submit the 90, but we also want to do it early enough for Helen needs to think about that, to have it early enough that if questions are raised, they can be addressed or answered or changed.
So Helen, I would suggest that by the 14th, you have a date and we figure that out, okay?
Okay, yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Are there any questions or discussion regarding the 60% construction document submission? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? The
Well,
six-
don't
We
be,
wait a
are you
minute.
ready for that yet?
No.
No, you're
just-
not.
No, we wanted, because we didn't put this up here at the last meeting, we wanted to show that both the designers, cost estimator, PMC and bond, both came in under our control budget of 220,459,379. They were within less than 1% variance. We are carrying bonds number since they are the construction manager. And we wanted to make this point that we had put on the agenda that we would have value engineering to review, but because we don't really need to do that at this point, we wanted to show you that we were in good shape with the cost estimate and the 60% control budget. So that's why this slide's in here. And then this is just more of a breakdown of where we are with all the costs. And it's about $1,500 lower than our control budget that we have approved with MSBA. So
Pretty good.
there you go.
Now,
Now.
Joe,
Can we have
I
a vote?
move that we vote to approve the submission of the 60% construction document submission as presented to us this evening to the MSBA.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. And then we just wanted to quickly go through the trade contractor pre-qualification schedule. Do you want to take this, Craig, or do you want me to?
I can run through it quickly. So December 6th is the date when when the state, all the contractors in the state will be notified via the central register, via ad in the local newspaper, and also by combis. They'll have a few days to review, put in questions. We'll answer those questions in an addendum, and then those statement of qualifications are due December 20th. The first group we're going after is just
Correct.
the elevator trade
Oh,
contract.
okay. Yeah, okay.
So we'll be seeking qualifications from just elevator trade contractors. If we do not receive any, we are required to solicit a second time. So we'll do the same process again. That second deadline is January 10th. If there are still not any interested trade elevator contractors, that work now becomes part of the construction manager's scope, and they're able to go directly to trade contractors and solicit bids, proposals. The rest of the trade contractors, we're going to start January 10th. Similar process where we'll put advertisements in central register, local newspaper, and combis. The rest of them will have a deadline February 7th to submit their statement of qualifications. The pre-qualification subcommittee will go through them, we'll assign points, and then we'll have our list of pre-qualified subcontractors, which bond will be able to use to solicit bids for the rest of the project.
Any questions? Schedule?
This is just more curiosity. Why is it just the elevator trade that we're doing, the couple weeks before everyone else?
Yeah, great question. So that early that early package, the pre-GMP number 1 is for just purchasing culvert stuff. The next one will probably be for purchasing electrical stuff. The next one will be kind of a site work, a foundation, a structural steel package. Within those trades, the only one that is a trade contractor, like a filed sub-bidder, is elevators. And we need them to coordinate the pit, which is part of the foundation work. And so that's why they're kind of on the fast track. And then the rest of the trades, masonry, tile, painting, that all comes later in the main package. And so we can start that process a little later.
And typically we don't get any elevator trade contractors to submit statements of qualifications, and you have to do it twice. So that's why we're starting a little bit earlier with them. But we have to have them ready for the bid package that's going out on January 24th. So we needed that extra time.
26th.
Oh, sorry, 26th. Don't want to
Don't cut her-
shortchange Ellen.
Don't cut those 2 days. God
That
forbid.
date I remember.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're not anticipating much interest. These guys typically don't. But we'll see.
All right, any other
And-
questions, discussion regarding the schedule update on the trade contractor pre-qual schedule? Okay, Lynn?
So next are, we had the Conservation Commission hearing on the 21st. I think most things were resolved. I think there is another one on the 5th, and we expect that to be the final. And I think they're just waiting on some approvals from the engineering department, or some confirmation from the engineering department. They're all set in order to give us our final approval and order of conditions. So we did have a town council meeting to approve the proprietary items on November 27th, and they were unanimously approved. We have a ZBA hearing on the 13th, and we have our PBC meeting again on the 14th, and that's primarily for approving monthly invoices, pre-GMP 2. Those are the main topics that we have right now for that meeting.
There any questions or discussion regarding the schedule? Okay. Lynn? That it?
Yes, it is.
All right, prior to adjourning, I guess there was a discussion at town meeting regarding the energy code, and representations, I guess, were made regarding a 3% number for the high school. Lynn, if you can explain why that is not applicable.
Well, the main thing is we've already received our project funding agreement from MSBA. Once we receive the project funding agreement, it doesn't change. So we have already received 2% for sustainability measures if we comply. And they'll be monitoring it throughout the project. So we already had the 2% incorporated in. Unfortunately, even though the project predominantly complies with the opt-in code, or the code that was recently approved by town meeting, we won't be eligible for that additional 1% because we've already signed our project funding agreement with MSBA.
I thought it was important that if people are asked about this, that people are able to understand why we would not be eligible for the 3%, because we've already had the agreement with the MSB.
Funding agreement.
Yep.
Did someone inform the Environmental Sustainability Committee of this? Because they were the ones up the front making these claims. So did that has the PVC or can let someone just make sure they understand and so they, just so they don't misunderstand that and say it, not, on purpose, just not understanding that. It would be helpful for them to get a clarification as well.
We can
I'll
give
try.
that to them. I mean, I think it is a policy that MSBA is moving toward, but I don't even believe that it's a in-place policy with MSBA as of yet. But we will explain, we'll explain that to them.
Yeah, the important thing is we already had that funding agreement and we
Right.
couldn't. So unfortunately, I was not at a town meeting and we might have been able to explain it at that time, but Saturday at 8.
But I think the town will benefit from the energy conservation measures that SMA has put in the building, and they will see a big benefit from complying with both the stretch code and the opt-in code. So they will see a big benefit from it.
All right, any other matters?
Joe, I was
not-
just gonna ask, it's Phil, if there's any updates. I saw a notice in the paper about a ZBA appeal about the high school, I think. And then is there any news on conservation hearings, how that's going?
Regarding the ZBA, regarding the high school, we haven't even gone there yet.
Oh, no, oh, maybe it was a Board of Appeals. I thought it was a notice about the high
It
school.
is. It
An
is. It's
appeal.
no, no, it's a Board of Appeals.
Board of
Right,
Appeals,
so-
I'm sorry, what did I say,
Right,
zoning,
and they're
sorry. Yeah.
appealing, yeah, so. That's happening on the 13th.
And is that anything, like, is that gonna, I'm just wondering if that's throwing any speed bumps in our plan to get going in the spring?
We don't.
I don't anticipate any.
In Conservation Commission, have we been given approval through them, or are we still in process?
In process, Phil, and the hope is that the next meeting next Tuesday will be the last one. We're very, very close with them. As long as Bill Renault gets his final comments back to the commission, they will close the hearing on Tuesday night and set the order of conditions, or whatever town of Wakefield calls the requirements of the permit.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other matters or questions or discussion?
Yeah, just a quick one. Do we anticipate meeting in person at any point?
Yes,
Any idea like when?
How about when?
hopefully when the community room for the in the public safety building becomes hybrid capable, we'll be able to do it then for sure.
All right.
We don't have a room big enough to hold it right now.
Right now, there isn't a room big enough to hold a committee. Because the only one that's hybrid capable is the small conference room at Town Hall.
Or WCAT.
Yeah. All right, any other questions, matters, or whatever? If not,
I move that we adjourn.
and I assume there's a second,
Second.
all in favor, leave meeting and start your Christmas.